The new built environment is the political, economic, and social environment of our society, formulated through intentional thought and action, designed to create the greatest opportunity to build the highest quality of life for our citizens, residents, and those subscribing to and supporting the culture of the 242, and which will provide sustainability for generations to come. Dale Happy Knowles.
Thinking about how it seems so slow and inefficient to do anything in the Bahamas? Wish you could snap your fingers and voila, the 242 is a smart city? After all, we are one of the most digitally connected in our region. Pause, think about it with intentional thought, and consider where we go from here. Stay tuned and hear what Monte A. Pratt has to say about transforming the 242 into a digital wonderland. Join our co-sponsors DomDev Enterprises and Page Investment and our friends of Something to Think About with Dale Happy Knowles. Let us know where you are, what you're thinking, and what you want us to discuss on the topic that we have at hand. Ask your questions and say your comments, and share with all your friends that we are now live. And this is going to be a hot off the press, innovative conversation. We'll be right back.
Something to think about with Dale Happy Knowles.
Welcome to Something to Think About with Dale Happy Knowles. What we think, we become. What we radiate, we attract. And what we imagine, we surely can achieve. Let's change the narrative 242. So this evening, we're going to have another vibrant conversation, as we said, innovative in a big way. But before we get into the nuts and bolts of that, last month we celebrated Majority Rule, which gave us access from a political and somewhat social point of view, equal access for all of the citizens. And so this month is the month of love. And so we want to start out by sharing, honoring a man who is big in my life, who defined a lot of the built environment in the Bahamas, Mr. George Victor Cox. Today would be his birthday, and he would be of age today. And I can tell you that if he was around when Hurricane Dorian came along, even though he might have been not able to do as he used to do, his heart will tell him to get up out of his bed and go to Abou and Grand Bahama to try and establish the new built environment for them. So this evening we have the one and only, the maestro himself of vision, I call it. Because this man has more proposals on his desk than I could probably have written or conceived in my whole lifetime. Monte A. Pratt. Monte, I don't know what A stands for, but I know it's Alexander.
Alexander the Great.
Alexander the Great. You know, you always got to have some greatness in there somehow.
I will name after two World War generals, Montgomery and Alexander.
And then that's how, you know, there's power in the name, and so there's always that. So Monte is a planner, he's an architect, he's a historian, and he also, I consider him to be an author. Writes a lot on Facebook, but he proposes a lot of proposals and so forth. He's also been the Equal Opportunity Programs Compliance Officer and Business Contract Specialist at the Equal Opportunity Program at the Metropolitan Washington Airport Authority. They're up in Virginia. But he has this huge sustainable company here in the Bahamas for, well, it was got to be more than 50 years now. I mean, that
Yeah.
you've been functioning as a
Yeah,
elite architect planner.
Yeah, semi-retired now.
Semi-retired. Boy, that's good when you can say you're semi-retired. But welcome on to Something to Think About with Dale Happy Knowles.
Thank you for inviting me, and good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. And so, for us out there, we're going to have this innovative conversation. We want you to take off any blinders that you have on your mind so that you can add to this conversation, and let's just think totally out of the box as to where we could go and carry the Bahamas as we move forward. So as I mentioned before, we were just celebrated majority rule. So pre-majority rule, so what was the built environment like? That would have been in the 67s or maybe even the 50s or whichever. What was our infrastructure like in the Bahamas?
Well, Dale, we might need to go back even a little bit further.
Sure.
When the colonial government, we were ruled by numerous governors sent by the Queen as a colony, and they are the ones who commenced what we call infrastructure development. So, case an example, the Parliament buildings that were built and government house, and so you notice that all of these structures have that British colonial style of architecture, and we have continued, which has kind of given us our signature look, unique signature look, along with the style of Bahamian architecture, the dormer type homes and the dormer type buildings, and a majority of the architects are still trying to keep that style so that the Bahamas can maintain its unique look, and of course the colors that we use. But getting back to what I was saying is, a case, an example of what we could look at in terms of development, the first pier of the Prince George Wharf, for example, was built by the colonial government. And the first pier was the first half. That's the first, what they call the festival center was. And then they added the second half and they made it longer, right? And then the UBP government administration, they came in and their focus was more on dredging the harbor because the large ships couldn't come in. They had to stay over what you call over the bar, and people were brought in by tender, and tourism was growing at the time. And then the next stage was the Penn administration came in and saw fit to build pier number 2. And so we ended with pier 1, pier 2, and then later on.
So before you switch over there though, so there was a style that was done, focused mainly on the British style, pre-majority rule, and did that style change once the majority government took over?
No. The reason why it didn't change, many of the administrators in government, like permanent secretary, PS, deputy permanent secretary, directors, were British. And so the PLP government kept them on because there were no Bahamians at the time with that type of experience. So they were the ones who still made the decision. And for some reason, in training Bahamians, so we look at the schools, the schools still have that look even to this day, except for when Sir Cecil was the Minister of Works, and he did the Uriah Mackey and the Stephen Dillard
Stephen
School.
Dillard. Mm-hmm.
But basically, nothing has changed with respect to what I call even with roads and the docks in the Family Island and all that, pretty much remain the same, you know. Small bridges, no rail bridges and stuff like that. So there's been no what I call innovative thinking since independence, since we took home majority rule, right? And so with respect to the environment, we are still uh, behind. But I don't want to dwell so long on that. But what happened in those days were when the UBB administration took over, the ministers didn't work um, full time. They were
Okay.
part time, spent half day at the legislative council doing government business, another half day they spent.
But they weren't paid by government, right?
They weren't paid. They weren't paid. But what they
Okay.
did was they awarded themselves all the lucrative contracts.
Oh boy.
So they weren't paid like how the ministers are paid today. And that was one thing that Sir Lyndon did right away. He made ministers full time, and he also gave them a salary with the quicks and all of that, because he didn't want them to be, as the former administration, involved in both the public and private sector, because
Right. Okay.
obviously it's a foundation for corruption.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's why you have to declare what you if you have an interest.
Yes.
That puts
Yes.
put in then. Okay.
Exactly. And so what they did back then was the various families, wealthy families, it was maybe a half a dozen or more who control the government and who were these ministers. They basically, after the transition from the colonial government, they basically split the pie up between themselves. So certain families took certain sections of the economy, and believe it or not, that is still the case today. So when we talk about majority rule, as you call it, great majority rule, now we consider majority rule 2.0, which the original majority rule was basically socio-political power,
Political. Right.
but the basic economic power has not changed all
Change.
that much. I would say a wider scope. So what you basically have is 15% of population holding 85% of the wealth.
Wow.
Okay, and that has been spread a bit among themselves. So what I call some of the lesser uh, white Bahamians who were not participating at the level back then, a lot of them now were given the opportunity. So even though the business economic has expanded, it has expanded mainly among the white Bahamians, you know, and so they still control basically the economy,
Yeah.
okay?
But when you
And
have money, it's hard to take money from money, right? I mean, I don't even
exactly,
think it's right to take money from money, but we need to find ways just to get others involved in it. And so that's why we're having these discussions, so we could advance people's minds so that they could find new niches and new avenues in order to opportunities to make money.
you are absolutely right, because for case an example, the construction industry was really evolved after 1967, because government buildings had to be built, ministry buildings and all that, roads, airports and all of that had to be built. And basically, except for one or two I would say out of 8 top construction companies, 6 of them were made up of these same families, okay? And maybe 2, and then today I think it might be 6 major construction companies, and just as one that is basically black owned. So again, when you look at the street paving and the dog building and all those infrastructure, that is still in what I call the majority rule 0.1 thing and not the
To two,
shift.
yeah. That's why we're
Right,
trying to move into two so that we could raise and the lid and go to another place. So back
right.
then, what access did the masses have to the built environment? Was this, you mentioned that there was the same companies that was owned by pretty much extensions of the original UBP families.
Right. Now,
Did they have access to any other aspects
right,
of it?
right. No, no, now in some cases, a lot of, not a lot, several of the big UK-based companies came in, Bernard Stanley, McAlpine, I can't remember the other one, but there's about 3 or 4 of them came in to do some of the bigger buildings that the government at the time might not felt that they could have handled, right?
Right.
So the money didn't go down; it went in the opposite direction to these foreign companies. But what these foreign companies did, they had intensive training where they pull in Bahamians, and a lot of Bahamian became supervisors and superintendents and were actually building these buildings,
Right.
but they had no share in the ownership, probably getting good salaries.
Yeah.
And
I
then
think
as
my
time,
uncle was one of them at one point. Yeah.
probably, and then so what happened, later on, they start to split off and form the local.
Companies.
So that was where the black contractors start to get a part of the thing, and then Mr. Pennon start to cost some of them to get some of these contracts and all of that. But today, if you look at it, they still, case an example is the project that's going on at the Prince George Wharf right now. The other case an example was the redevelopment of Arawaki in the Arawak Port development. There were 6 um, basically white-owned shipping companies, and I think the only one that was not was Tenants and Wells Company.
Okay.
And what Prime Minister Ingram did, he didn't like all of this freight and these big trucks being mixed in the downtown area with the tourism. It wasn't good, 'cause they give all
Right.
the black smoke. And he brought them together and he said, look, let's move this thing to Arawaki. I think the business model that they came up with was a good one. I don't know if they shared the pie enough, because I think what happened was the 6 companies maintained, I think, a 60% share. The government took the 40%, they kept 20, and then the other 20% went out to shares. And I think most of those shares were went to civil servants who were financed by the Bank of the Bahamas. The Prime Minister had arranged the whole thing. So you do have some Bahamians that have shares in the Arawak Port
Port.
development, but not to the extent that I felt it could have been even more. In fact, I don't think the government should have hold the
And
20% that did.
yeah.
But I don't know whether it was some kind of guarantee. And then what they did, they gave them a 25-year or 30-year moratorium that no other container port could be built on New Providence.
Yeah, no,
So
20 miles. 20 miles, which pretty much takes care of all the deep water harbors in
yeah,
nearby. Yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah.
also as a time period, I think too,
Yeah.
that,
Yeah. Yeah.
that goes along
Yeah.
with it. So
So
that's
when it,
go ahead.
no, I was gonna say. So tell us some of the people once these companies, these foreign companies, started to embrace the local persons and train them and stuff like that. Tell us some of the names, some of the people who were involved in trying to change the landscape of the Bahamas. We started out talking about my uncle George Victor Cox, but there had to be some others. I have a picture somewhere which shows a couple of people on the table. So you show some names and then I'll show that picture.
Yeah, well, you had, for example, the Cargills who got into the construction
Okay.
business. There was Tony Pratt's father. I'm trying to remember. There's a number of them. Glenn Holmes and Norman R. And even though he was a UBB candidate at the time, Norman R. He was an architect, engineer, more or less, but he got into
Yeah.
the construction in a big time, right?
So
I
yeah,
see, I
this
see,
one. Go ahead.
no, I would just say I see in that picture, I see Tony Dean and I think Jackson on
Jackson.
the right. I'm trying to see the guy who's thinking. But
He
this
was
is what you
Harlem.
had. This is what you had back then. The British and the white Bahamians still basically control, even though people like Tony and George, your uncle, uh, all who I've had the opportunity to work with, uh, their services were used right in terms of their profession and all that, but they didn't share in what I call
The
like
prophet.
ownership. Exactly, exactly. And
Yeah.
so
Well, a lot of them also would have been to the table because they went off and got um, high quality elite educations
exactly,
at
exactly,
universities like
exactly,
McGill and the rest of those.
exactly, exactly,
So
exactly.
I think those that made it hard for the foreign entities that you spoke of there to ignore the
Yeah,
local
but
component.
I don't want to digress, but I want to share this with you. Um, when Sir Cecil, he was inside the time, was the first minister of works, right? What he did, and I always say he had a heart for the people. What he did for in the case in the group that I was involved with, uh, he came to us and he said, you know, he always had young men around him, mentoring them, uh, not only politically but business wise and all that. I grew very close to him after he became the MP and I relocated to Freeport and he shared a lot
Okay.
with me. But prior to that, right? Um, Successful was a visionary, like Mr. Penland, beyond his time. So what he did was he said to us, okay, I could help you all, but I can't help you all individually. You all have to form yourselves into a group or a team. And so a case and example was led by Arthur Colebrook,
Okay.
Arthur Maycock, Ben Albury, myself, and I think Alexander Johnson. I think he might still be the Minister of Works. We formed a architectural team,
Okay.
and what he did, he gave us the contract to design the Uriah McPhee and Stephen Diller's school. But what Cecil did that was different from what's been happening and still happening today, the Bahamians had the contract, but the consultants who came in from Florida, they worked for the Bahamians.
Okay. So there
That's
was the
what
right
that's
way
what,
around. Yeah.
that's exactly right. Because what happened was when he said to us, and he shared with us, he said, look, I want every child in the Bahamas to be in a air-conditioned school with the right environment if they're going to learn. And so this is where the idea of the Uriah McPhee, the windowless school and the air conditioning. But one of
Yeah.
the problems we have in the Bahamas, we don't maintain them. So the schools wasn't maintained properly. So after Cecil died, they
Yeah.
wasn't as successful as they should have been, right? But the point that I'm making was he put us in charge. Then the second thing he did, and this goes towards what I call the new built environment. A lot of people don't know it, but the ongoing New Providence Road Improvement Program is Cecil's brainchild under him as the first minister of works. And I
Yeah.
remember this quite well because again, what he did, he said, okay, I want you all to design these roads and lay these roads up. You need to form a company. Island Engineering was formed. It was headed by Nigel Bain, who was Clarence Bain's nephew. Basil Nemore, who became a road builder,
Right.
Fenton Nemore's father.
Father. Right.
Um, Gerald Evans out of Exoma, Don Sanders, I think his son was the deputy speaker.
Right.
And, and the interesting thing about it, what happened was my first job when I came out of high school, well, I started in architecture and construction as a summer student at 14. But my first job when I came out of high school was with lands and surveys, so which they call Crown Land.
Right.
And so I went into the mapping and the topographical survey area where we made the maps of the Bahamas,
Right.
right? So I got a taste of both sides. And what happened was, because of that, I was kind of split between the architecture company and the engineering company. Okay, but we were assigned to lay out all the roads that
Roads.
you
Okay.
see here today, the east west highway. These maps and things ain't just been laid out, you know. The 22 corridors. They getting ready to do the Gladstone Road corridor. Okay, East Street was supposed to be widened, but I think they waited too late and too many buildings became close to. But East Street was supposed to be
Right.
widened from
From a long time.
Prince George straight to South Beach.
Right.
Okay, and so you all of these corridors. It was a comprehensive map called the New Providence Road Improvement Program. So Penland did the Samila Butler Highway and part of the Thingham and the East West Highway. Then Perry came in and he did the Tonic Garland piece and the other piece. Then Hubert came in and he did the inner city and
Yeah. Going
Prince
to town.
Charles, Prince Charles and all that. But that plan was the vision of successful Wallace Field in terms of his knowledge for infrastructure development and new built environment, as you put it. The other thing that he did, he was responsible for us going to the Family Island and laying out a lot of the runways of these smaller airports like Mangrove Key, Basel, Nemo, and Sanders,
Right.
and myself and others. We would fly and get put up, and we go down and we lay out the runways and all that, and then he send the equipment in there. So a lot of the small runway strips that are now throughout the Bahamas, again, was the brainchild of Successful, because the only access before that was by boat.
Yeah. But I
You
think
know?
back then that original cabinet or those cabinets had a lot of persons who brought value to the table individually and could stand up individually. Whereas somewhere along the line, we came about as a people where we believed that we could only work in unison. I mean, there's nothing wrong with harmony and unity, but
Right.
thought has to be individualized and it all come together and blended for the best solution. But if we
Right.
all think in the same way, we'll never get the best solution.
Right.
I guess I should say it that way. So when we look, Monty, at all of this activity and this access that we got through the majority rule, the first majority rule, then when we start looking at why I say we are poised for another one, it's what is the infrastructure and institutions that were developed that accelerated as a result of majority rule?
Well-
what part of our society or economy or whatever that
Well,
that
well,
we allowed it to
basically,
accelerate?
basically, it's always to talk about who was the best prime minister and all that. But if you look at it, every major institution that exists today was established by the Penland administration. The only one that I know, Perry was responsible for NEMA, right? And Prime Minister Ingham was responsible for ICA, right?
ICA,
Which has and the media, television media industry. That was a great move by Ingham, because if we look at that today to see how vast it is now in terms of the radio stations, television stations, but not only that, all of the spin-off smaller station we saw the other day on TV, the program Gombe Kids won an international award. And this is showing you what we Bahamian could do if given the opportunity. So
But yeah.
that was a great move in terms of when um, uh, I think what happened, Finland saw that as a control to control the media. And I think even England saw it as an opportunity, which it was, to expand the economy. And so basically, and I don't want to dwell on the past too long, but if we move forward, I would say that no administration since the Linden has come up with a comprehensive national new build environment plan
Plan.
for the country. Okay, there's always been what I call sport development on different projects, right? But there's been no major
Comprehensive plan.
comprehensive
Yeah.
plan. And I don't want to go there because I don't want to waste time in that area. That's the part
Yeah.
we can't do that.
Yeah.
But interestingly enough, just yesterday, I believe the government says a new day, and I believe so far I feel as though they are moving in the right direction in terms of seeking advice and getting more Bahamians to participate,
Okay.
professionals, right? And what I mean by that is, yesterday, Prime Minister Davis said it doesn't make sense to focus on just opening the hotel in Grand Bahama, but we
Right.
need to more or less look at a comprehensive development strategy for Grand Bahama that include other things. Because he said, for example, what's the use of getting the hotel all open up and the airport ain't working? You
Right.
see? So I think that's the new mindset.
Right.
Another very interesting area that I think there's an opportunity. I think tourism is our bread and butter, and there can be those who control it in the front end. It can be a while before Bahamians really transition into tourism in any big way. I believe if
Right.
we get infrastructure in the Family Islands, you would see more growth of Bahamians in that area. But yes, I want to say the new area is the digital economy.
Right, and
Okay.
I was just going to touch on that because Loran McDonald made a comment just now on the page, and it says that the ideas of a visionary executed decades later. Thank you, Sir Lyndon, Sir Cecil Wallace Whitfield, for those visions, right? And so when we look at that same thing, Sir Monty, and I like to call everybody Sir who is his name, right? So when we look at that, the to pat myself on the back a little bit, we at Betelco came up with a whole digital plan for the Bahamas and so forth. And infrastructure, network-wise, has been put in place almost 20 years ago. And we're not maximizing it. And just looking at that comment, it tells me that we just have a propensity that when somebody puts something forward, it takes us about 10, 20 years before we actually implement it. For some strange reason. I don't know if that's a cultural thing or what is causing that. Because now, with Majority 2.0, I've been saying it for about the last 10, 15 years that that's going to be driven by digital. And a lot of people used to look at me like they're in headlights and don't know what I'm talking about. But COVID came along and slapped us a couple of times and pushed us straight into the digital environment now. And so we've had 25 years of progression and 25 years of some regression or coasting, and then 5 years of getting slapped up and down by hurricane and COVID and whatever else up there. And so what does it seem that we haven't reached there yet? So what we seem to be ripe for Majority Rule 2.0. And I believe it's going to be powered by smart cities on top of that digital environment. What's your thoughts on that?
Okay, well, let me say this. I think back in 2018, Crazy Thompson, I'm not sure whether he was in the Prime Minister's office at the time, but they came up with this concept of making Freeport a digital city, okay? And they had this conference and they invite people to come in to discuss possibilities and all that. Well, then we had the hurricane and the thing, so that kind of thing. But I still think that that was the wrong approach. What should have happened, the government should have developed a comprehensive plan for the new digital cryptocurrency environment and lay out the parameters, put legislation in place, and do it properly. So what they did is they put the cart before the horse. Okay, I believe. Fast forward to the day, I believe that is changing in that I see some things that I am liking. For example, the local company Arawak X crowdfunding. A lot of and see what Bahamians need to do. They need to train themselves to understand these terminologies and what they mean and how they could take advantage of it. And all basically crowdfunding is ASU, you know. When you put your money into ASU and one person get the money. That's what crowdfunding is. Crowdfunding is where I want to start a business. I have a good idea and all that. I have some money, but I don't have enough money. So I go out to Arawak X and ask them to raise money for me. And so what they do, they then send an invitation out and to people. And what happened today is the banks are not paying any interest, and people are looking for places to invest their money, be it midterm or long term, to get more for their return, especially with the environment. So crowdfunding presents an opportunity for you to more or less finance a business and become a part of the business. And if that business grow to the point where it goes on the BizX and it's now traded, you now can get shares and you actually own shares and you are now a owner of this company. So this move by the young man, the young group, with, and this is going to take young Bahamians who understand it. Our crowdfunding. The second thing is, which is kind of fast, is the movement of FTX into the Bahamas. Okay, I was a little apprehensive when I saw it and what they were doing, but what my research showed is they are the number 2 largest crypto exchange business in the world. Now, what a lot of people, again, I feel Bahamians need to make themselves aware of these things. What crypto exchange is it allow you to trade different cryptocurrencies. But not only that, is if you have X amount of cryptocurrency and for some reason you need cash, they could convert it to fiat. Fiat is paper money.
Paper money.
Okay.
Cash.
So a lot of people apprehensive about cryptocurrency and owning and all that. But if there's a need, just like how you have shares in a company, and if someone got sick in your family, you could actually take those shares to the bank and put it up as collateral, and the bank will give you money for that medical expense or whatever. Because if you default, the bank now how those shares to recover. So cryptocurrency, yes, it fluctuates and all that, but it's the future. And I believe the new generation, we can't get into the tourism thing and we can't get into the construction industry in no big way. So we need to look at these new built environments and move in that direction, you know.
Yeah. So we're gonna tackle some of that on the other side of the break. We took second break so far. Okay. But I wanted to just say this one thing. Like I said, with the build out of the networks and stuff, the whole idea was always to go from networks and push the applications from the telecoms environment out to the customer and use it be more controls there. Now, the idea with Grand Bahama was not born where you said it was born. It was born right there in BT Petaco. But I give the government, under the minister government, the credit for being able to execute it, to take the chance and take the step forward on actually moving with an old idea, which is almost 20 years old itself, and so forward. But I mean, this is the thing. We need to be able to get to a point where we're going to listen to the young people I mean, I would have been young then, but there's young people now who have all kind of ideas, but we're not listening to them, and so they could help us move forward. But we're going to tackle into that a little bit on the other side of the break and so forth. And so you've been listening to Something to Think About with Dale Happy Knowles. I'm here with Monte Alexander Pratt, the great one, named after two generals, and so forth. And he's given us a wealth of knowledge on history. And as we go after the break, we want to start moving forward in a big way as to how we could advance the Bahamas and the 242 as a whole to new levels, raising the lid and going higher and higher for the benefit of us all, as we said in our new built environment definition. We'll be right back.
Sammy's Chicken. There's nothing like it.
Sometimes it's hard to find a company that can get the job done right. At Mission Complete, we do just that. Mission Complete offers a wide variety of services from janitorial to sanitation to pressure washing pool decks and patios. We're also proud to offer COVID-19 decontamination for your home or business. And for those multi-legged critters, we call in our pest control and rodent team. Why call 4 different companies when you can call just one and get the job done? Call us now and let's get this mission started.
Welcome back to Something to Think About with Dale Happy Knowles. We're here this evening having an innovative conversation, taking us back in time, but we want to now move forward with Monte Alexander Pratt. I call him the planning architect extraordinaire, man who has a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of information, a wealth of proposals that is sitting on his desk that needs to be implemented in a big way. So we need to reach out, dig in our pockets, and get those things rolling. You investors out there, contact him. And you can have many investments in place that could build great wealth for us here in the Bahamas. So welcome back, Monte.
Thank you.
Great. And so we talked a little bit before, touched on the youth and the like and stuff like that. And so when we look now at this, as we said earlier, at the new built environment, as we've been talking about all along, we want to look at the new built environment. And so if we put that up on the screen in a second, part of the cornerstones of this new built environment in my mind is the smart city, right? And smart cities, the British Standard Institute defines a smart city as the effective integration of physical, digital, and human systems in the built environment to deliver sustainable, prosperous, and inclusive future for the citizens. And then Cisco, the big guys, defined it as the smart cities as those who adopt scalable solutions that take advantage of information and communications technologies to increase efficiencies, reduce costs, and to enhance the quality of life. Now, that's the one that I know the most. And there's a bunch of definitions. And part of the challenge that they have in the arena is there's no one agreed definition of smart city. But the one from Cisco is the one that I think, in my mind, is what goes to. So when we look at our new built environment, which is basically to have a sustainable solutions and environment for generations to come that covers the whole scope, then we see smart cities as being a cornerstone for those things. So what was your take on that?
Okay, well, there, what I'd like to say is that the good Lord has created the Bahamas so uniquely that there's no other country in the Western Hemisphere with our makeup in terms of being an archipelagic nation.
Right.
Okay? But not only an archipelagic, they're archipelagic nation, but they're basically shallow water.
Right.
What we have is shallow, deep, the tongue of the ocean.
Right.
It's just unbelievable the way nature has caused the Bahamas to come about. And what I mean by that, I want to go back to us not exactly copying what other countries or other nations do. So the term smart city, I would like to turn that into smart islands.
Islands, yeah. Well,
16 major islands that the Ministry of Tourism focuses on as destination islands. And we could target those same islands. And again, it fits in with my idea of developing six economic zones for the country, because so we cannot micro manage the Bahamas anymore. The Bahamas, and I keep saying this, we always say is 100,000 square miles. The Bahamas is almost 140,000 square miles, because we normally don't remember Key Sal, which is out to the west between Cuba and Florida. But that area, even though it's mostly water, is exactly the size of California. Do you realize, and I say this so people can understand the size of the Bahamas, a jet plane flying from Inago at 500 miles an hour will take 1 hour to reach Grand Bahama? Okay?
Yeah.
1 hour, a jet plane. So that gives you an idea.
That's halfway to New York.
Exactly. Each of these islands have their own unique makeup. Inagua is right on the edge of one of the world's busiest shipping lanes, okay? And so what we need to do is we need to look at each of these islands and, per se, come up with I would call an anchor development for each island that would be the draw to get, not only the draw to get some of the population out of Nassau, but the draw to get, and one of the things Bahamians got to get over this thing about foreigners, okay? Dubai, everybody don't know what Dubai. Dubai have 11 million people, and only 1 million are Dubai local. The other 10 are foreigners. So if those 10 million people leave Dubai tomorrow, what happened to all those condominiums and apartments? So we got to get this thing out of our head. What we need to do is make sure that we have the laws in place that we keep control politically about, but we need to open up and allow people to come in without feeling this foreigner
xenophobic and stuff,
xenophobic and people who want to invest. But my thing is, I think one of the areas where there's a great opportunity with respect to Smart Island is blockchain and cryptocurrency industry. And so let me explain for those who don't understand. Blockchain is a series of computers that are connected all over the world. They're connected to each other. And what happened is when a person does a transaction on their computer, that information goes to all of those computers and it locks in.
Right.
So person can't go back and change the document or whatever they did because it's now distributed among this web of things. So blockchain could be a industry where we could, for example, if we set up a technology center, don't have to be big, on 16 islands, and we web them, we now could offer storage services to companies that might want to store the information in the United States,
Right,
or
right.
whatever. The other thing about blockchain, it allows things like telemedicine to be advanced. So in the family island, when the doctor or whoever or the nurse examined me, and she said, "Well, I don't know what's wrong." She put me on the computer, a system, whatever, and the specialist in Nassau, he could see everything without me flying to Nassau, and he have the same record and the same file and the same information. If I did lab tests at one lab, I don't need to go do another lab test. He could tap into the portal of that lab and get the X-ray or whatever. And so blockchain allows you to do that. Blockchain allows you. Let me give you an example how blockchain could really benefit us. We have a lot of small farmers. We're trying to become more self-sufficient. If the Ministry of Agriculture would support these farmers and cost them not to be growing 5, 6, 7 projects, but focus on 1 or 2 crops, right?
Yeah.
Once you set up a blockchain system, and all the hotels could tap into that information. So a farmer, he could say, okay, in 6 months, I can have 10,000 bushels of onion ready. He put that out on the blockchain. So Bahamas know it, Atlantis know it, all the little hotels know that they can now start placing their orders right there and then, okay? But not only placing their orders through the cryptocurrency, they could put the money into his account, even if it's an escrow account, right? And not just the hotels. You got Super Value and all the food store chain. So all of them. So his 10,000 bushels of onion is sold before he even harvests them. Okay. Now what you have, and this is the gender gap. You have 3- and 4-year-olds who could operate these smartphones, okay, and know the technology. You have the older set. I call myself unique. I in my 70s, but I challenge any teenager in terms of knowledge and technology with respect to programs. And I taught myself, and I learned a lot when I was in Washington. However, the point that I'm making, okay, these farmers, they could grow the thing, but they don't know how to get on the blockchain system and put their inventory on it so people know. But their grandchild could do that.
Exactly. Right.
So it could become a family affair. And guess what? You ain't need no office. You could set it up in a bedroom in your house. And so when he tell his granddaughter, in 6 months' time, I can have 10 bushels of onion, 1,000 bushels of onion to sell, she go on the internet and on the blockchain, and she send that information out, and that can be sold before. So this is the area, the direction I think we need to move in, because we're not at this time going to tap into the tourism business in any big way, right?
Well,
and so
there's 2 things to that, though. I mean, what you were saying is spot on and right in line with what the digital evolution rollout was intending to do, right? We just multiple years behind. And we're going into another technological revolution, and we need to catch up so we could get into that too with artificial intelligence and the rest of those teaming up with the things like blockchain and the like. So blockchain provides a vehicle for multiple things, and crypto is one application on top of that that's going to work well together.
Right.
And so you said you want to be a smart island. I really want a smart country because the Bahamas is more digitally connected at high quality and reliability than
Anybody in the
many
region.
in the region, right? But we say we the Bahamas and people just dismiss it because we got some customer service issues that we're dealing with and stuff like that. But when you look at the core networks and stuff like that, all we have to do is get our head right, and then we'll be ahead of the game very, 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 very quickly. And so when we look at that, though, the digital environment is really and truly the environment of the young people. And so we go back to the same question again as to when are we going to embrace the young people to be drivers of these type of societies for our economic development as a country, right? What was how do we get that to happen?
Well, let me say something there that I think we still stuck with this British colonial style of construction and development. In America, that basically has been done away with. Okay, buildings are managed by project management or building information managers, where everything is done on the computers and all of that, right? And they control that, almost like a control tower controlling the planes and all of that. And companies specialize in one or two specific areas. So, for example, a steel construction company who can put up a steel frame, they put up a steel frame of that building and they move on to the next building. So that's their specialty. A window company or a wall company, their thing is to clad the building. They clad the building, put the windows and close it in. They move on to another field. So the only area where we have this, what I call these things, is plumbing, electrical,
and contractor say.
Right. But everything else, the general contractor does it. And what it is more expensive because the general contractor, when he get the price from Florida, and you add all the things and you mark it up, right? Then he can mark it up, and then he can, when he's doing his overall profit thing, he can mark it up again. So the general contractor can make most of the money. Whereas if we go to the project management concept, and the reason why I say this to you, Dale, I know at least 5 Bahamians with project management degrees who are not over 45.
Yeah.
So for example, the Ministry of Housing just announced a housing program. Okay, I understand they're going to have a major company that's in the business already build these homes. To me, that should not have happened. What should have happened was the ministry should set up a development corporation or division within the thing, and they engage the project managers, they engage the contractors direct, and then they not go to the general contract concept, but go to the project management concept. So if a guy is a block layer and you can build 100 houses, you give him the contract to lay the blocks for 100 houses. He can probably make more money than if you had given him 1 or 2 houses to build. If a company is a build out partition company, sheetrock company, you give them the 100 houses to them. So now you splitting the pie up, but you managing your money now. More importantly, you go to these wholesale suppliers of lumber and materials, and you say to them, I want you to set up a division, and in some cases it might be duty free or VAT free or whatever. But I want you to set up a division within your company that's separate from your general public business, and that business is going to serve the supplying the materials for these homes. Okay, we want you to go direct to the manufacturer, not to Florida. Go to the manufacturer because we giving you 100 homes, so you buy in bulk for 100 homes. So you get that discount from the manufacturer, and we want you to take your profit, but pass that on to us. Okay? Then you,
Us as in the customer. Yeah.
so the guy who was laying 100 blocks, he ain't buying the blocks. The project manager call up JB or whoever and say, look, I want you to deliver 800 blocks to a house number so and so today.
Right.
The guy gets 800 blocks to lay. What it does is cut down on stealing. One of the biggest problems in construction is stealing. You have to allow at least 5% to 10% to cover. I remember when we renovated and this is a sad thing, but it's true. I remember when we renovated. I was a consultant on the British Colonial Hotel when we renovated. We finished, I think, 2 floors, everything complete, mark off, ready to go. The next day they came. All of the fixtures were gone out of the bathrooms, right? And it got so bad that they had to engage the police association to do security on that building. So stealing is one of the biggest problems. So if we tackle these areas, we'll have more money to do more things and share the pie, and you have the trickle down economy. And I only do the housing as an example because it's a current thing, but it can be applied in any case. In the airport authority, we had well over 100 contracts. I think we might have 1 or 2 big general contractors for specific areas, but the rest of those contracts were project managed. We had a top project management.
But you all also had, Monte, an equal opportunity program that allowed the small man to actually play in that space without the big man to do. So, I mean, like you say, you have to look at the holistic picture in planning these things. You can't just, because we like to take a piece of something and run with it, and then we wonder why we're bucking up. Like you mentioned with the Grand Bahama tech thing not working. But, you know, if they went back to the people who had the original ideas, then you would know how it was envisioned, and then they would get a bit, but not to dwell on that too much. So, and what I was going to say on what you just said is that blockchain as a whole is an excellent technology in order to manage that whole process that you just talked about, and make sure to keep it efficient and flow. And that's what digital does with. So when we look at this now, let's say the smart country or the smart islands, as you want to call it, what would be the advantages of us doing it on those islands that you spoke of at this time? What will it facilitate? Yeah.
Okay. Let me take it to another level there. Malta and Iceland,
right,
are 2 of the most successful mining companies. You know, cryptocurrency. You mine them. You need a lot of computer. And you need a lot of electricity to do it. So Iceland has one of the largest solar power grids that support these mining companies in Iceland, and the same thing in Malta. Malta in the Mediterranean, I think it's about 3 or 4 islands. We have 700 islands. Okay, Malta is doing a tremendous business in hosting companies for mining and cryptocurrency and stuff like that. So mining is another level, the what I call it, the top of the crypto business. And not only that, we could then bring in the experts to mine a coin for us, or a coin for the Caribbean or whatever. And put it out there. And once that happened, you just like how when Prime Minister Ingham did the media and the television, everything will open up. So now what you have to do, you have to build these specialty buildings that are hurricane proof, waterproof, because the equipment is very, very expensive. Nearly every island in the Bahamas has a hill over 60 feet. Even Grand Bahama have a little hill, right? That's the flattest island out of all. But South Abaco down on the eastern side. They go up to 150 Elutra. So in terms of uh, locating these specialty uh, technology warehouses, right? We say that, and then the other thing is we on limestone rock, solid man. In the state they have to deal with flooding and all kind of things, right? But the point
Right.
I'm making is building the infrastructure. Just as you talk about building the Batelco
Right.
infrastructure, you have to build this infrastructure. And so these are the things. So when companies realize, okay, there's a mining facility in Eleuthera, they might want to relocate to Eleuthera to tap
Right.
into that. And so this is what we need to do in terms of what you call 2.0,
Right.
a majority rule to get the wider Bahamian look here,
Access.
you have some innovative talent and most of them, a lot of them young men doing a lot of crooked things. They could be
Yep. Yeah.
using that,
Yeah. So Monty,
you know.
you touch on it in a big way because I think we need distributed planning, as you were saying, because through those islands, as you mentioned, because the Chinese plan for 50 plus years and we plan for minus 5 years, right? And so forward. But if we look at that whole picture now in terms of how we gonna advance that forward, Madam Producer, you want to put up that picture I have there with all of the different, the greenish looking one with all of the different things on it. So the smart island, yes. We said city here because I only use city because most people know what smart city is, right? Or they've heard of it before. If I start talking about smart island or smart country, they might not know. And so these are just some of the areas that you put in the digital environment. And in the digital environment, in the smart environment, it will be a duplicate of everything that happens in the analog or the real environment, but in digital, and then it'll happen much faster, much quicker, more security, more stability. Once you put the proper gatekeepers and stuff like that in place to do the different things. But you can take that down. So if we look at all of this now, I'm thinking if we have all of these things in place, then what we could then do is, even in tourism, what you coined when I was talking about the time sharing, digital time sharing in Grand Bahama, and you coined it a digital wonderland. All of the things that people come to the Bahamas to do in relation to tourism, we could mimic that in the digital environment. And so the people don't even, COVID would have been a joke because those people would have still had access to the Bahamas, but through virtual, in essence, let's call it virtual reality. But it could have been done digitally if we have this type of cities put in place. And like from all of the tourist aspects, whether it's on the sea, the sun, the sand, anything to do with tourism, we could also do it. And I'm only saying tourism because that's our bread and butter and that's what people seem to still understand. But like you say, it could be any industry that we use it and start it as a pilot or move forward as we go forward with that. And as we come to wrapping up now with because I don't want to keep you here all night and then.
No, I'm okay for time.
Okay, your people start fussing me out.
But no, I'm okay for time.
Okay, so once we erect these cities now with these aspects to be able to do these things, what do we need to do to move forward with these development? How do we get that to be actual motion? Go ahead.
Dale, I want to piggyback on the diagram you just put about what you said.
Okay, go ahead.
In a specific area. And anyone who's listening to me, I want them to Google the Internet of Things.
Yes.
IoT, okay? And what the Internet of Things basically is how we maximize the use of the internet to improve our lives socially,
Right.
economically, job, whatever. Okay, so let's kind of break it down in a small way. Okay,
Okay.
so let's say we build out a smart country. Most of the stuff already in. We will have to upgrade. We'll have to go to 5G and all of that.
Right.
But a tourist come to the airport, rent a car. Don't know, when we used to go to Miami, we pull out the map and we plot.
This is what I'm calling a Wonderland, right?
So when right, so when he jump in the car and he press the button in the car and he say, "Take me to Grand Lucaya." All he got to sit behind the wheel and don't touch nothing, and the car can take him straight to the hotel. It can stop to every light. It's safer than a taxi driver. It can stay within the speed limit because everything is controlled and monitored by what we call the Internet of Things. Those buildings that you showed with all those antennas, that's the system. Okay? A wife to wake. Before she go to wake, she put the roast in the oven. Okay? The roast got to cook for 2 hours, but she getting off 5 o'clock. 3 o'clock, she could go on her smartphone and tell the oven, start at 350 degree.
Yeah.
When she reach home 5 o'clock, the roast done.
Yes.
Okay? The refrigerator. Okay? When you go to the fridge, on the front of the fridge is a screen. Okay?
Yes.
The minute you run out of mayonnaise, you touch a button. That thing, what that then do is that create a list for you to go to the food store. But even more importantly, if you engage a company that deliver food, you just send that list to that company and they can deliver what you missing out your fridge.
Right.
So I mean, this thing is so
Yes.
vast, and we ain't talking about no this and now.
Yes,
This
and that's
is
why I said,
now
Monte,
there.
it is now, and it should have been before now, but we slunken. To say it in our way, we slunken. And that's why I tell people $100 billion revenue for our country is a small thing,
That's a joke.
but they seem to think
That's a
that is a big
That's
thing
a
to deal
joke.
with and stuff like
That's a
that. But
joke.
when we look at the whole picture of things, when we see that, and when I say that the Wonderland, before you don't take it off the screen, the Wonderland is, if somebody walks past Columbus statue or Somalo bus or whatever, then automatically pops up on their phone some recording or some information that tells them where they are, what is significant about the space. If they go through McCullough Corner or they pass in the Mortimer's Candy Kitchen and so forth, then it gives them some history on that, and then they might want to walk in the door and buy something from these people. All of that is a part of smart cities.
Even security, it could say you are now in a high crime area or whatever, and that type of thing to the tourists or visitors to stay safe. So you could do so many things with it, and it ain't as complicated as we think. But I know we're getting ready to wind up, but one of the things I believe should happen, and I think the Prime Minister hit the nail on the head, but what we need to do, and what Bahamians have to realize, like I said, the Bahamas, we got 700 islands, and we spread over almost 140,000 miles. That's a lot to develop, okay?
Yes.
So everybody ain't looking at overnight thing. We have to systematically put a plan in place. And like I say, I have my concept for my economic zone. And we look at them individually. We look at placing teams to manage those particular areas. But more importantly, we do one of them. And I honestly believe, my northern Bahamas territory that integrates Abou and Grand Bahama could be the pilot project
Right.
that we could test this And if it work in Abaco and Grand Bahama, it can work other places.
Oh, for sure.
Sure. And so we could expand agriculture. We could and we talk about the onions and all that. But what about the fisherman out on the water when he catch actual and I think they should ban export of lobster and ban the export of conch and save it for the Bahamas and the hotels and Bahamian. And if someone want conch and lobster from the Bahamas,
Come
they
from the
can
Bahamas.
fly and get it. Okay? But the point I'm making, getting back, the fisherman down in Niagara, it can take him 3 days or 2 days to get to Porter's Key. If he on a smart system on the blockchain, he could sell his whole load of fish before he even reach Nassau. So when he put up the Porter's Key, Bahamas got their freezer truck there. Bahamas Foods got their freezer truck there. Everybody got and in couple hours, all the fish that he catch gone. He got his money. He can prepare to go back out to sea sooner.
Yeah.
So, I mean, boy, anyway.
Yeah, no, listen, the ceiling, if we take and be, as we say in the new built environment definition, we have to be intentional about this. And what we're doing on a big part over the last 25 to 30 years is basically we're not intentional about whatever it is that where we say we're going. We say things, but we're not really putting the commitment and the meat and the resources behind implement any one of those things in any big way, and so forth. And you talk about earlier at the beginning about us not having a national plan or a comprehensive plan. I'm sure in my lifetime, and I'm sure it should be more so in your lifetime, that I could count at least 5 or 6 either attempts or partial programs that was done. But the question is, do we actually put these things together or continue them when a new administration come, or we just shelve it and start over, right? Which to me is wastage and so forth.
One of the things I think has been hidden in the Bahamas is the Bahamians, they get upset with administrations when they don't right. But ain't no government can do much in 5 years. The government need at least 2 sessions to get something comprehensive done. And so we've been changing government for the last 25 years. And every time that new government come in, they stop whatever. I think this is the first time I think that I see this administration seem to be continuing with contractors and stuff like that. But in order to get something done, see some projects run 5-10 years. So, so for example, and then another thing we need to do, I'm not just talking about doing these things. We got to look at every one of these things from a revenue generating process. Bahamians don't like to pay, okay? Now, we putting in all these highways and roads and all of that and all that. We could improve the traffic flow, for example, by doing overpass, okay? So for example, if we did an overpass at the junction of East Street and East-West Highway. And so from the Maron Mall to the airport, I think it's about 8 roundabouts. So we have an overpass that you could, so when you come in your car to Maron Mall, you could almost be to the airport in less than 10 minutes because you don't have to stop. Now, what people don't understand is when your car going at 40, 50 miles an hour, it ain't burning much gas. But when you're sitting in traffic to a roundabout and it's taking you half an hour to get from the Maron Mall to the East Street Circle, you ain't only burning a lot of gas, you polluting the air, right?
But now, we don't even have to burn the gas because we could go electric. And
well, that's another thing. That's another thing. But I was looking at the current situation.
Okay, go ahead.
But one of the things I want to say, you got to look at the bigger picture. Do you know how many man hours are lost in this country due to lateness and people going to drop their children to school and all this type of stuff.
We had to study it at BTC because when I took over in the group in 2006, I went from like 15, 30 people to 350 people. And we found between the hours of 1:30 and 4, when they knocked off, most of them knocked off, the production dropped right off the table. And so a lot of them were, 5 or 6 of them was going to the same school to pick up. And so we know we weren't going to stop that, and we was trying to get them to at least carpool some of the things if we could do it, but that wasn't working, and so forth. But the amount of wastage that we have, and it's not intentional wastage, it's just a matter that we are not embracing a wide scope of people to be able to bring other perspectives to the table so they could see where these things are going. Yes, there's always going to be some level of corruption and whatever happens and stuff. That part of wastage, that's just nature. But there's a lot of wastage that happens that we really could kill. I mean, going digital is one in a big way, but there's so many systems and stuff that happens. And that's why I say, when I was a young man, coming out of the university, working at BTC, everybody looked at me like, where he going with these ideas, right? But these the same ideas are the ones that people are enjoying today, right? And so we need to embrace the youth today, because all they're doing is brain draining out of the country because nobody is giving them opportunities and the like in a big way. And so we have to find a comprehensive program in order to get them all engaged. But not just them. We need to engage people like you, and even maybe me with no hair on my head. We got a little bit of brain in there somewhere. But to play a role in this whole program of development. And we can't do these things by sitting around the table with 20, 25 people and thinking that those who we elect to sit in cabinet have all the ideas and all the answers and all the solutions and all these things. Why we send everybody to school and train them if we're gonna just go to one set of people? I mean, I don't see it. We need plans in order to do it. So how do we excite that to happen? That's the main question I want to ask with all that.
Another what I want to say is, we have to change this system of all the paper shuffling and going to this one again. I might have shared a story with you before, but I want to share it again with the public. When I was working with the Airport Authority in Washington, it was around the 1st of October, I remember. And the Airport Authority is a quasi government with 13 divisions. My division, the Equal Opportunity Department, was division number 11.
Right.
And so anytime a meeting was called on a major issue, there had to be a representative from all 13 divisions. You had to be, it was a requirement, okay? The other requirement was when that meeting commenced in the morning at 7:30, and if your session only took 10 minutes to present, you had to remain in the meeting until 5:30 to listen to everybody else. You know what we have is when people make their presentation, they go on. Okay, so here's what happened. My supervisor came in and said, Monte, we need you to go to emergency meeting in the morning. They call it the war room, the conference center, the war room. Okay? She said, I don't know what it's all about, but it's an urgent memo. I want you to go because it's to do with construction. When I went to the meeting, the vice president or the deputy CEO of the Airport Authority, everybody from the 13 divisions were there. Police, fire, freight, everybody was there, okay? He said, look, we have a problem. He said, we have planes coming from Europe with 300-400 passengers running on fumes in the air because there's no space for them to. He said, we need to build a 12-gate in-from terminal, passenger terminal, 12 gates, okay? And he said, he didn't have no plans. He said, what do you think I'm doing is build it in the middle of the airport, you know, outfield. 6 gates on the side and 6 gates on that side. Now, me and my experience, as how I know they ain't going in the Bahamas, he said, today is October 1st. We're going to open this airport on the 30th of June. That's what he said, okay? Now, he said, here's what's going to happen. The engineers have, not the engineers, the architects have October to come up with the concept. The engineers have November and December to come up with the engineering,
Design.
electrical and the so forth and everything, right? We started this project on January 2nd, and it's going to be finished on June 30th. 12 gates. I said, Mark, I remember when they built the first airport, not this one, but with the Colombian company. It was a company from South America. I think that had 3 gates, 3 of the onboard,
Yeah.
the extension, loading, passenger.
The wings, yeah.
I remember that thing. I think that took 18 months to build. I said, man, gotta be joking. He's talking about 12 gates in there. And that time, it was snowing like crazy and everything else. Who could wake in the snow and all that? So anyway, plans were done. They showed a concept. Everybody, again, everybody approved, had their input, what they think should happen. The awarding, they go through the pre-bid, and then the pre-award conferences. Again, you have to be in there. So the pre-bid is the selected people who are invited to participate, and then the pre-awards are the people who get their contract, and then of course, like I say, everybody comments on I think, and there, when one day I went to the airport, and you have to have a special license to drive on the air side.
Yeah.
And I didn't have no need to go on the air side, but I see this big white thing out there. I said, let me go out there. That was a big inflated tent. It was snowing outside. Inside, men were bareback with shovels and different things working. Okay? They were working and preparing the foundation. And to cut a long story short, I came home, I think the first part of June for a week or 2 vacation. When I went back to Washington, when I left, the interior, the ceiling was hanging and so forth. When my plane pulled up to that terminal, about 30,000 people in the building, Kentucky, Burger King, everything operating. You think that building been there for 10 years?
You sound like Miami. Anyway, go ahead.
Finished on time. And here's the thing about, I want to say about the concept of project management. We have had not one project finished over budget and over time at the airport authority.
What's your
Not
thing?
one. Not one. And the safety factor was so safe. We didn't have an injury for 900 days.
Wow.
And 900 and some days. And the insurance company gave the airport authority money back because there were no injuries. But the point that I made is comparing how we go through all this paperwork, and you got to bid, and you got to do this and all that. The development of, from the concept idea to the end of December, all the construction documents were in place, and the bids were in. And from January 1st to June, the construction was done. And that's how you save money and you do that. And again, they use the equal opportunity program where everybody got a piece of the action. And that was and that was another reason why it goes so far. You know, Virginia has a lot of soil, and then they got to put a lot of piles down. So the pile company come in doing, the foundation company come in, the steel company come in, and they come in and they go. and there ain't no one general contractor who running everything, and he can't move because he waiting for payment and all kind of foolishness.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
So we just gotta keep prodding and keep pushing that this attitude, this narrative that we're trying to build, change and take up root in our people and become contagious. Also contagious in COVID, so that
Yeah.
this whole new way of doing things
Yeah.
is become the norm,
Yeah.
the new built environment as I call it.
Well, like
And so
I said,
forth.
I am pleased with what I see. The attitude of the new administration is, and hopefully, I don't know, I might get to sit with them and share some of these ideas, and it's a new day, so you got to have a new course. You can't
Yeah,
you
you
can't
can't
continue
do the
with
same
the
thing.
old
Yeah,
traditional, the same thing, doing it, expect to get better results.
yep,
Bahamas there, they've been doing the same thing over and over, and how they can get better results. You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know.
But Montgomery Alexander Pratt, I should say, the general squared, as you know, people who in the science world know about squaring. I'd like to thank you kindly for taking this time today, and also to take the extra time to continue to share. I know you could go on for another 2-3 hours, because I know you don't sleep. You're up all night, but thank you. But is there anything you would like to say to the general public before we break off?
Well, I believe we are to a place of shifting from the majority rule 0.1 to beginning majority rule 0.2, where we can get more participation economically, get more young people involved. We have a small population base, man. We could do this, okay? And so, but the powers that be has to sit down and listen. And like I said, I believe the Prime Minister hit the nail on the head, and I believe we can take the Grand Bahama Northern area and use that as a
Pilot.
pilot concept to see how this concept will work. Because you don't want to plunge full head into something like that. But I think there's a tremendous opportunity. I believe it will bring a lot of people back to the Northern Bahamas, Grand Bahama, and Abou, who left as a result of the storm and economic reasons and all of that. And I just think it can work. And I think in the meantime, we look at the other areas of blockchain and the cryptocurrencies, and like I said, we ain't touch on, we touch the top of the iceberg.
Yes, yes. And that's what I always said to Vincent Vanderbilt Wallace and the rest of those, that we only scratched the surface of tourism. So it's the same thing with all of our other services. We are very young and very innovative country, waiting to reach our true potential. And we know God lives here, so we know our potential is huge, right? So once again, thank you kindly. We'd like to thank all of those out there in social media who stuck with us the whole time. I mean, I'm sure it was well worth your time. And if you found value in it, be sure to hit that subscribe button and share the program with all your friends, and so that they could learn and watch it at their own leisure. The shows stay up on Facebook and YouTube. We don't take them down. The whole purpose is to get this knowledge out to people and so forth. And we have persons like Monte Pratt here, who has a wealth of knowledge. And if there's others that you know about, then be sure to shoot us a note and tell us you want to hear them on the show and so forth, so that we could raise the lid of this Bahama land and get us all of we up into the same stratosphere, and not just have some benefiting and some not, and so forth. We didn't even touch on how this will affect poverty and the like, which is a huge topic. But maybe we'll have to have you back, Monty, so that we could touch on some other aspects of it and drill down a little bit more deeper in just one area versus all of the different things.
Okay, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So folks, what we'd like to do is to ask you to pause, think about it with intentional thought, and consider where we go from here. Do subscribe, as I mentioned earlier. And if you are not sure, we encourage you to vaccinate or isolate. Those are the two things that are going to get us out of this COVID environment that we're in, and so we can move forward into greater speed and pace and developing this new environment that we choose to want to do as we move forward. So be safe. Madam Producer, thank you kindly for yet another show, keeping me heads on P and Q's and dotting the I's and the T's as we go. And we all want us all to enjoy this evening and have a safe evening. Thank you, Monty, and
Thank
good
you.
evening.